Hello, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about something creepy and scary. More roller coaster deaths. Unfortunate events that have occurred over the past decades. Let's begin. On June 9th, 1991, death stalked the grounds of Kings Island Amusement Park. In one accident, a man fell into a pond. A friend, 20 years old, William Hathcote, and a 20-year-old park employee named Daryl Robertson attempted to rescue him. All three suffered an electrical shock, fatal to both. Both men, only an hour later, 32 years old, Candy Taylor, fell from a ride called Flight Commander and died from the impact. Perhaps not coincidentally, the grounds of Kings Island have been rumored to be haunted as well. People have reopened seeing Little Girl in a blue dress. In 2012, an episode of the sci-fi series Ghost Hunters was filmed into the park as well. I don't know if they saw anything, but moving forward. In April 2004, 16-year-old Haley Williams visited Oakland theme park with her family. While riding Hydro, a water coaster ride, she suddenly flew out of her car, falling 30 meters or 100 feet to the ground. She later died from internal injuries. The park was sued for $250,000 for negligence. Later, it was discovered that employees didn't check the seatbelts for safekeeping. The ride was closed down for a year after Haley's death and was renamed Drenched. Lovely. I love roller coaster rides. Another one, New Jersey's Action Park boasted perhaps the worst reputation of any amusement park in history. The place was a perfect storm for unsafe rides. Drunken patrons and disgruntled teenage employees with countless injuries were suffered on the park's water slides at least. At least 6 people were killed during this ride of funness. During the park's history, including 3 drownings, an electrocution, shocking, and a heart attack allegedly caused by the shock of frigid waters beneath a ride rope swing. One man died when the car he was riding leapt off the track on the Alpine slide, causing him to smash his head onto a rock. By 1998, the crushing weight of lawsuits forced the owners to close down Action Park. A few years later, it was reopened, a new emphasis on safety. The reckless and sinister history buried beneath signs and regulations. Part of SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida, Discovery Cove aims to give its guests an interactive experience, with the opportunity to snorkel among tropical fish, interact with dolphins, otters, and so forth. Such an experience would be astonishing. But for 59-year-old British tourist Keith Clark, it would turn out to be a nightmare, ending in the worst way possible. While swimming at the park, he cut his toe on a piece of coral. Clark suffered complications from the wound and 3 days later collapsed in the airport on his way home. Suffering from a shock, he was flown home to England. Unfortunately, the doctors weren't able to save him, and he later died with his organs failing. Today, Brooklyn's Coney Island is a shell of its former self. Back in the glory days of World War II, all the fun times. But a few of its better-known landmarks, including the Wonder Wheel and the Cyclone, common to operate or continue to operate. The Cyclone, a wooden roller coaster, was built in 1927 and has been inducted in the National Register of Historic Places. When it opened, a ride cost was about 25 cents compared to the $9 fare that you would pay today. The rickety roller coaster has been tied to several injuries and at least 3 fatalities. The latest, that was a 53-year-old person whose neck was broken by the force of the cyclone's first drop. He was rushed to the hospital, but he died later with surgical complications. In 2002, a 15-year-old with Down syndrome fell more than 20 feet from a Ferris wheel at Gulliver's World theme park. Selm later died of head trauma. An investigation in the wake of the incident found that the girl had wanted to ride with her mother, but the park employees thought she was too big for the ride and was put into her own seat herself. Neither the girl nor her mother were fluent enough in English to protest, and the girl apparently clamped out of her seat and dropped out as soon as the ride began. Although her lap bar was found to be locked following the accident, the park was heavily fined for health and safety violations. Make sure you always stay in your seat while you're riding. Batman, the ride in a roller coaster that takes riders through the streets of Gotham City and depths of the Batcave. In June of 2008, the ride claimed the life of 17-year-old Asia Ferguson. Ferguson had lost his hat while riding the roller coaster and determined to get it back. He climbed over 2 fences, ignoring all the warning signs of danger. Unfortunately, the boy wandered into the area when the roller coaster, going at 50 miles per hour, decapitated him. 6 years earlier, a groundskeeper was killed under similar circumstances when he approached the ride while in motion and was hit in the head by a leg by someone on the roller coaster. That person's leg was broken severely. I don't know if it was broken off, but either way, it would hurt for both of them. Besides the Batman ride in Six Flags, the Superman Tower of Power in Kentucky Kingdom was the site of its own grisly incidents. The Superman ride lifts its passengers about 17 stories and then dropping as well, for about several feet. The Superman ride lifts its passengers up 17 stories and dropping. In 2007, a cable broke, wrapping around a 13-year-old woman's neck and legs. She is able to free her neck from the cable, but the cable tightened and it ripped off her legs. Surgeons were able to reattach one of her legs, but that was about it. In 1951, Barista Park in London unveiled the Fun Fair, that's an almond, as part of the Festival of Britain. The major attraction at the fair was the Big Dipper roller coaster. Though it did not appear nearly intimidating for many, as some of the twisted steel seemed irrelevant of the parks today. The Big Dipper was extremely dangerous in 1972. There was a terrible accident when one of the roller coaster cars broke loose and rolled back into the station. 5 children were killed, and many were injured as well. The incident would mark the death of the Fun Fair, which limped on until 1974 when it was closed down. Six Flags Great Adventure Haunted Castle attraction was typical of most haunted houses. A quick walk through a darkened space where employees dressed as ghosts and ghouls and goblins leaped out to frighten you. But in 1984, parkgoers would be becoming one of the ghosts and ghouls when it caught fire and set ablaze. Most of the people were able to get out, but 8 teenagers died from the blaze. Their bodies were torched beyond recognition and had to be identified by their dental records. In the wake of the tragedy, the park would be brought onto charges of the haunted house lacked basic safety supplies in the area. Precautions like sprinklers and smoke detectors were not there as well, so, it happens. The Italian model, Fabio, was on a roller coaster ride in Busch Garden in Williamsburg. For the grand opening, he was welcomed to go on the first experience for this roller coaster. Unfortunately, he was hit in the face by a goose, which cut his face up pretty bad. The goose did not survive. Fabio lived on with his beautiful face. So what do you think of those horror roller coaster ride incidences? I find it quite exhilarating, and I no longer want to go on a roller coaster. Do you have a fear of roller coasters or water slides? I find water slides are way more dangerous, but they're also wet and fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.